Good evening, everyone. Vice Mayor, would you like to start the meeting or?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our budget shop meeting. Is there a need for roll call, Madam Manager or City Attorney?
No, ma'am. This is just a workshop, a presentation from staff to you all. And we won't be able to take any community inputs at this time. It's just giving an overview of where we are to you and to the public, and to answer your questions while we prepare the budget.
Okay. So again, good evening, everyone. Good evening, North Miami residents. This is an activity that we do every year. As that a budget is presented, a workshop is presented, and we're going to hear what the city administration is going to propose to us. And as she mentioned earlier, there will be no input from the public at this time. This is informational purposes only, and wherever I am lacking in details, they will follow up. So, Madam City Manager, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rasha Kamo. I am your city manager. I am honored to be your city manager. With me on the team, I have with me Assistant City Manager Anisha Daniel, my strategic project manager Angela Reyes, the Assistant Budget Director Indira Bidasi, and returning to do the presentation herself, our former Budget Director, who recently went to a great opportunity at Miami-Dade County, Ms. Vivian Cow. She's the one that's actually going to do the presentation. She's here with me, and she can provide you with any historical information that you may need, council, as we go through the process. So, Vivian.
Good evening, and everybody. Welcome to the fiscal year 23-24 budget workshop for the city of North Miami. And thanks for tuning in. Let's get started. During tonight's workshop, we're going to be covering the fiscal year 23-24 budget development timeline, the property values on the projected ad valorem revenue, the general fund overview and the assumptions. We're going to be looking at the building fund, water and sewer rates, stormwater and sanitation, the administration, mayor, and council priorities. Give us 1 second, technical difficulties. Share screen. You need to share screen. Can you, may I? Okay. Perfect. Right now, in part of the process that we are, last night, the council approved the tentative, the ceiling for the millage rate. Right now, we're conducting the budget workshop. By August 24th, the property appraiser will be mailing out the notices to the homeowners. In the month of August, the city is planning on holding 4 town hall meetings. And as well, yesterday was approved the 2 budget hearing dates for September 5th and September 19th. Historically, the millage rate was stable at 7.5. Last year was the decision to reduce the millage down to 7.4. The budget that we've been working for assumes a 7.4 millage rate moving forward. Out of the entire property tax bill that a resident receives, the portion that comes back to the city is about 33.25%. The other 33.71% goes back to Miami-Dade County, and almost 30% goes through for the school board. The millage scenario, like I stated earlier, that we're working on is the 7.4 millage rate. The information received from the property appraiser stated that the taxable value for the city increased from $4.5 to $5.2 billion, which was an increase of 13% in the tax roll. By law, if it's the decision of the council to go back to the rollback rate, it will represent $4 million loss out of the general fund. It will lower the millage rate to 6.4629. This paragraph shows how the payments to the CRA compares to the total ad valorem taxes that remain with the city. In other words, out of the increase in tax levy of $4.9 million, $2.4 million are being absorbed by the CRA, and $2.3 million will remain with the city of North Miami. The split, what comes back to the city, is 48% versus the CRA will keep 52%. The assumptions that we have put in so far into the budget for 23-24 in the general fund assumes keeping the millage rate at 7.4. We have included $2.5 million for reserves. We are maintaining the same level of service as compared to last year. We are assuming increases in the employee health insurance costs, the FRS, general liability, and property insurance. We're still assuming 3% merit, 3% COLA for unclassified and non-bargaining employees, and a 5% merit and a 4% COLA for the PBA employees. There are no full-time personnel reductions, and there is a full calendar city of events. For the fiscal year 23-24 budget, the total revenues that we're assuming is $80.7 million. Out of this $80.7 million, only 30% or about $24 million will come to the city from the ad valorem. The city's total budget, including all funds, it is at $181 million, out of which 14%, when it's compared to the entire pot of revenues, 14% is the ad valorem revenue, 28% is for charges for services, and 32% is made of transfers and the other sources. For expenditures, the police is made of nearly 18% of the budget, and public work, which includes water and sewer, stormwater, transportation, and fleet, makes up for 42% of the expenses. These are the city events that we have included in the budget, which is Nomi Fest, Brew Fest, 4th of July, the monthly bike ride, the Haitian Heritage Month, Black History Month, the monthly Jazz at Mocha, the Spring Egg Hunts, among others. The capital projects for the fiscal year 23-24 that are estimated at $20 million, and some of the projects included are the ERP Munis implementation, $270,000 for the police station rehab, over $500,000 for park facilities, $2.9 million for transportation projects, $14 million for water and sewer infrastructure projects, and $1.5 million for the stormwater basin construction. Sanitation rates, for now it's been assumed that the sanitation rate, right now we're assuming that these rates are going to be increased by a 5%. We will know a little bit more during the summer after the county establishes the rate under CPI for next year. During fiscal year 2021, Black & Veatch conducted a projected overall annual fee increase study that it assumed from 2023 to 2028. The approved rate increase of 7% to the water rate and 8% to the sewer rate for last fiscal year were not implemented. For this upcoming fiscal year, for 23-24, the proposed budget redistributes the increase over 5 years and proposes an increase of 8.40% to the water, 9.60% to the sewer, making it a combined 9%, and thereafter will be an 8.5% increase. Part of this increase is also to absorb the increase that we received back from Miami-Dade Water and Sewer Department, which is increased annually by a 5%. Out of the entire budget for water and sewer, about 45% of the budget is to pay back Miami-Dade Water and Sewer Department. The administration priorities for the upcoming year are the restructure and reorganization of departments, improve our customer service, cross-train different functions, improve the city's revenue-generating activities, the ERP Munis implementation, and the North Miami CRA negotiations of a 40% amendment. The challenges the team foresee the city might face are financial stability, infrastructure projects, mainly in water plant upgrades, sea level rise, septic to sewer conversions, affordable housing citywide, and economic development. As a result of previous discussion with council, with mayor and council, some of the priorities that we capture are citywide events, the economic development for the city, financial stability, affordable housing, resiliency programs, water plant, parks renovations, 5-year strategic plan, downtown redevelopment, Northwest 7th Avenue redevelopment, centennial activities, and a smart city. And at this point, we wonder if there's any questions that any of you may have.
So that concludes our presentation, our PowerPoint presentation to you. If you have any questions, comments, if you would like to ask them now.
I guess I can start.
So, okay.
Oh, or I don't know. You can go ahead first, Mayor.
Sure. We're recognizing Councilwoman Cassandra Timothy. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So on page 13 for the capital request, what is typically our capital improvement budget? Like, do we normally typically spend about 20 million a year on capital improvement, or this is what we're projecting to spend?
This is what we're projected to spend. These are the list of projects requested by departments that will be funded for next fiscal year.
And so our capital improvement project is typically how much? Is it typically 20 million?
Councilwoman, we can get you that information from the top of my head. I think this year might be a little bit higher than last year.
Mm-hmm.
But understand these are capital improvements for all departments within the city. So there are some capital improvements here being covered by the general fund and some other capital improvements being covered by either water and sewer or the different funding sources.
Okay, thank you. If we can go to page 15, where we talk about the water rates. So last year we approved water rates, but they were not
implemented.
They were not implemented. So what does that do for this current year? So we were supposed to raise them last year, and now we're raising them this year. I just want the public to be aware that if we can kind of explain that process, why we had to raise the rates and what's going to be happening in these next couple of years.
So, yes, there was an ordinance that was passed and approved by council to increase the water rates incrementally over a certain number of years so we can catch up to the proper water rates that we need to subsidize the system. This fiscal year, past administration did not implement it. And so what we've done is we've taken the 7.5% that should have happened this year and we spread it across over 5 years. So it wouldn't be a huge increase, but at least we're starting back to doing the increase as we should. So for this year, as you can see, we're proposing a 9%. And then after that, the years after that, it's going to be 8.5 going down. So we can still continue based on what the ordinance had dictated and the Black and Veatch report of what we needed to do.
So your needed revenue increase and revised revenue. And so the revised needed revenue increase is what is going to be proposed moving forward.
Yes, ma'am.
And so right now we're looking at water 8.4, sewer 9.6, combined 9%.
Yes, ma'am, for this coming fiscal year. And then it will decrease by 8.5 after.
And the county is also raising their rates or raising their amounts?
Yes, so every year they increase their rate at 5%. And, as we explained before, we buy 45% of our water from Miami-Dade. So that comes to us, and we have not actually also passed it on to the customer. We've retained that. So the analysis from Black and Veatch is we need to start doing those leveling off And that's why we need to make sure that we follow the ordinance that you had passed. And that is what we're proposing.
Okay. And on page 17, I thought or maybe I still have my old one. If you go to page 17, the North Miami CRA amendment, I thought we were supposed to tweak that because we didn't approve the 40%.
No, I understand that, but this slide was done, before last night. And last night was when
when we made the change.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could just clarify what it is now.
We'll do that in the future. So the understanding is the CRA board has directed CRA staff and the city staff to work with Miami-Dade County on the interlocal agreement, and the city would retain 100% of the tax revenues east of Biscayne for the properties that are within the CRA, and the CRA will still receive 95% west of Biscayne for their TIF revenues to fund their projects. And that would be as of fiscal year 24-25. So it doesn't affect this fiscal year. This is for fiscal year 24-25 moving forward.
Okay. And then I think that's it for me for right now. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other question? Councilman Charles, do you have any questions?
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. And say thank you very much for this presentation. My question will go back to page 15 on that increase on the water rate. So now, how, Madam Manager, how do you plan to take that to the residents so that they will understand? Because as of now, as you know, one of the biggest complaints that we have throughout the city is that utility bill. So now, would that need for us to go out there and have some sort of campaign and explain to our residents as of what it is and why we're doing it, and what is the plan? Because I know this is going to backfire. And as all of you know, last year it did not happen. It just because of the politics of it. So we need to be mindful of that because of the politics of it. They hold back. They did not put that increase. So now, how do we plan to work that out? Because when you look at a 9% increase, that's a big jump, and we know exactly how that gonna go into backfire.
So, I mean, that is part of the conversation we're going to have. That's why we're having the town hall meetings with, 4 town hall meetings in the community to make sure everyone's aware and understand what's going on and the rates. Traditionally, when we're ready to do that, we would be sending out notices to all the customers to let them know that an increase is happening. So like fiscal year 2022, we have to send notices in advance to let them know it, and they're going to receive it. Like I said, if you look at it, it was supposed to increase to 7.5. If we had added it to the year coming, it would have been a 14.5 increase. So we didn't do that. We took it and we spread it across 5 years. We're going to have to take the beating when we go out and explain that to them. Unfortunately, I cannot explain how or why it didn't happen, but it is by ordinance. It is a mandate. We need to keep doing this. This is a requirement, especially as it relates to the financing and the funding from the state to improve the water plant, because we need to show that we are meeting our water rate requirement. And also the other side of it is that we're collecting the water receivables, the bills to pay for these improvements. And those improvements, like I have said before, are what will help us lower the water bill eventually. So, and that's why, like I said, we're going to be doing the town hall meetings to make sure that everybody understands it, and they will be getting a notice.
I have a follow-up question. Part of our conversation at the retreat was that we were trying to look at other formula for the utility bill. Will that be included? Would that be part of the conversation as we go out there? Because I think I don't see anywhere in here that we talked about it, given the fact that at the retreat, 3 of us voted for us to move forward with it, and one the mayor was basically a no vote at that time, undecided, and we know the definite no was Councilman Galvin on that point. So we were like 3, and one undecided and a no on that plan. So where we at with regard to this conversation?
That is part of the conversation that we're going to have when we have the town hall meetings, and we're going to present the options to the community at large and to make sure that we have good enough input. What we're talking about is doing the water bill from quarterly to monthly to ensure that it is more affordable, but also considering putting the sanitation bill on the property taxes and possibly the stormwater bill on the property taxes if it's possible. However, we just want to make sure that it is something that, it is well received by the community as we're going through the process. And that's a negotiation that we have to get with the county for the following fiscal year. When we discussed that, I did mention that there is an additional cost when we're transitioning from quarterly billing and so on to monthly billing. There will be an additional $557,000 estimated by the finance department for the cost. The additional meter readers, switching from quarterly to monthly billing and things like that. So yes, we are going to have that conversation at the town hall meetings to make sure that we do get the feedback and we get the input from the community as they feel more comfortable in their pocket. But I just want to make sure that we also say this is just a distribution of how the bill can be, but we are also working on mitigating the cost by doing the improvements to actually reducing the bill.
Very good. Now, just to be clear, so this is the conversation that we're gonna have. Like the choices will be like side by side, and now I'm just trying to see exactly how we're going to present it with the, let's say, with the 9% increase and all the other choices, and to that point, with wherever we go, that 9% increase will also be part of the conversation.
Yes, sir. It has to be.
All right. So, okay. We'll stop just right there for now. I'll come back if I have another question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is Councilman Scott Galvin on the call? Yes, he's not on the call. Okay. Do we have any other questions?
I have one. One more. If there's nobody else to come. City events. I think this is something that we need to look a little bit deeper. I do believe it seems like not only to me but to some of our residents that we spend too much money on particularly parties and everything, while they are paying a lot of money for utility, and then they feel like there's at some point we are wasting money and a lot of events. So is that a conversation that we're gonna have internally and see what we can do and what is how we can probably strike down some of those events? See if we can save money.
Yes, sir. I mean, everything is on the table. At the end of the day, it's a directive from you, the mayor and council, as to what you want to see. I do want to bring up that one of the initiatives that we talked about when I first started is I would look for a consultant to help us get corporate sponsorships to cover a lot of these city signature events, so they would no longer be part of our general fund, and they would be sponsored and to alleviate the burden on the general fund. But as it relates to the specific ones, again, these are the ones that we have, and there are actually more. There's, for instance, the Subjumu event. There are other, like the Business Summit and so on and so forth. So there are other events that are very instrumental to the community. But we will rely on you as, the council to give us a directive on how to proceed from there.
On that notion, what's the total amount that we have budgeted for the city events?
$945,000, correct?
And what's our total budget?
Total budget, what, the city budget or?
Yeah, the city budget, the general fund budget, both. Like I know one is
80.7.
80.7 million dollars.
80.7 and the total it's like 180. Well, what's the percentage of the city events in relation to the 80 million? Do you know that number? Is it like 0.9%?
We can do a quick back of the napkin.
It's not even 1%, is it? Because if it's 80 million and it's 900, so it's like what, 0.9%?
Something like that.
Something like that. I think it's pretty much, yes.
It's almost $1 million.
Yeah, it's almost $1 million, and so it's less than a percent.
So it's less than 1% of our total budget is allocated for cultural events. Am I correct in saying that?
0.01%. 0.1%.
Okay. No, I know we were talking about events, and I know some were removed during COVID and some of them were restored after COVID. And to spend less than $1 million on, I'm comfortable with the number, knowing that it's not, like we're not spending like $4 or $5 million worth of events. It's less than 1% of our budget. So I know you're looking for direction from us, and we did have this conversation at our retreat where we kind of outline what stays, what goes, what do we tweak, what do we, I think what we can do is maybe look for partnerships with some of our annual events. Like, for instance, we know like 4th of July is kind of like right in the middle with, neighboring cities. Maybe they would want to collaborate on, maybe like we have a Tri-City Memorial Day event, and, we're collaborating with other cities nearby so that we can all come together and just have one big impactful event, not, isolated events. So I think that that's something that we can do to kind of maybe reduce the amount of stress that event puts on staff to plan, looking at ways to partner and work with other entities that may take the lead on something like Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and make it, make it bigger, because we're partnering with maybe, let's say, NMB or Biscayne Park and so forth. So that was just my tidbit.
Look,
You, Councilwoman. Councilman Charles, if you would give me a second, I'd like to give an opportunity. Welcome, Councilman Galvin. I'd like to give you an opportunity to comment on the budget workshop if you have any or questions.
No comments, no questions. Sorry I'm late. It's a work day.
No problem. Thank you. Board member or Councilman Charles, you're recognized.
No. I just wanted to make one point on what Councilwoman Timothy just said. Partnering with other cities, they come with a cost, so we have to be mindful of that. Probably dealing with our laundry in here, then go ahead and add somebody else closet into our later laundry. So we have to be mindful of that. The only thing is, like, to my point, is that I'm against city event, but a lot of our residents talking to them, they feel like we are probably having too many parties in the city while they are suffering. The utility bill is killing them, and we know things are not that easy. That was my point of reference, but I'm not saying that for us not to spend money into some of our events. Some of them are like staples to the city, so there's no question about them. So, all right. So that I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to make a reference, and partnering with other cities wouldn't add to our expense. It would share the cost with them, so that instead of them doing one and we doing one, we share the cost of hosting it here. But other cities have done that, but that's something that we can explore in the near future. Because, like, for instance, Memorial Day, Biscayne Park is always here. Maybe we host it there one day, and we just share costs. But that's just just something that we can maybe think for the near future.
Okay. So thank you all for your comments. Just want to thank the city administration for the presentation. Vivian, thank you so much. Some of the concerns that I had were addressed. I was going to ask a question about why the 40% amendment for the CRA was still on there, but that was answered and clarified. That, we did come with a decision yesterday that we would instead refund or refund 100% of the east side to the city. In terms of the water rates, I'd like to know, and I know this is not this administration's fault, but I would still like to publicly, because it was stated publicly, if we as a body pass an ordinance, how are we assured that this ordinance is followed? And what are the steps that would be taken? What are the steps? So once we pass the ordinance, what do you have to do, and how will we be ensured that these rates and the ordinance is followed? So I just would like that question to be answered publicly, please.
Okay. I mean, for this administration, obviously, we're going to be following what the ordinance says and all the resolutions that you have passed. That's a conversation I can have with the legal department to ensure that we have methods to ensure that what we're providing is following all the specific set ordinances and directives that you have provided, especially as it comes to the budgeting cycle. Because we're talking about just this one item, but I'm assuming there are other ordinances and resolutions that we should be making sure that we always follow as it relates to the budget and these other projects. So that's a conversation I can have with the legal department to find ways to ensure that we don't miss these steps moving forward. And we will bring back to you a report as to how we can make that.
So if you could please run by me, let's say that today we passed the ordinance today. Maybe this is the city attorney's office to answer that question. We pass it today. What's the next step? And what's the next step? And what's the next step? That's what I want to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like I said, that's a conversation I will have with legal, and I will get back to you on that to make sure that it satisfies your question.
No,
but I won't be able to answer that right now. I can get back.
Mr. City Attorney, are you on the line?
He may not have the ability to unmute himself since everyone else is on.
I think Jennifer. Yes. Hi, Jennifer. Right. So what I'm trying to necessarily understand is what steps are supposed to be taken. So once an ordinance is passed, is there a certain amount of days? And then after that, what's supposed to happen? What is the notice? Like all of the steps. Can somebody explain that on the record, please?
Yes, I apologize. I was having technical issues and was not able to unmute and answer you earlier, Vice Mayor. So the ordinance or resolution rather, that you're referencing did not have a specified time frame for implementation. It just basically gave the authority to administration to implement those increases. So going forward, if it is the will of the council to have specified timeframes and hard deadlines, we can tweak the legislation and include those going forward.
Thank you. I personally would like to see that based on the past experience that we've had, because it's not fun, as public servant, whenever we have to raise anything, that's not a fun moment. And for us to have to go through the scrutiny of passing a resolution to raise rates, and then that has been, the public is aware that we're raising it. And then now you're saying we're going to raise it again. Oh, by the way, we never raised it before. I think we're losing the trust of the public. So I just want to avoid, personally, I'd like to have it that, and I'm encouraging my colleagues to sign on that we need to have specified time and dates of how this process is going to take place. Thank you for your comment. The other The other part that I'd like to comment on are the mayor and council's priority. Since I've been elected, I've always talked about West Dixie Corridor redevelopment, and I've not seen that as a priority. And I know that I've mentioned that both on the city side and on the CRA side, that is a priority. So I'd like to see that be public. In our public documents, I see 7th Avenue, which I'm very excited about. I see downtown, which part of West Dixie is a downtown area, but West Dixie goes all the way to the city limit of 143rd Street. So I would love to see that added, that that the priority of mayor and council is the West Dixie corridor redevelopment.
We're adding it as we're making the comments as you're speaking, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And I heard in terms of the events, I shared the sentiment of both of my colleagues that just spoke, and I think we can come to a happy median, because believe it or not, I am totally in agreement that we need to be fiscally responsible, and a lot of the city event, but a lot of the city events are very family orientated, and people believe, as much as we get some naysayers, we also get a lot of family members and just residents at whole, appreciating this. So I think a happy medium is good. I think we should probably focus on a policy to determine, what is the percentage that we won't go over in our budget. So when Councilwoman Cassandra Timothy mentioned that it's about, and then you guys did the calculation about, 1% of the budget, maybe we need to just have that as a policy, that whenever we're doing events, they're not, more than 1 or 2%, whatever, the group agrees on. But I also want the public to know that one thing that I can appreciate about our administration and especially underlining our city manager, we have made we're making efforts to have corporate sponsorship so that we hopefully won't have to go into, the budgeted lines, and we can actually outright get a lot of these events just hopefully close to 100% sponsor. I know that most of the event that District 3 does, I know that I personally have had sponsorship, and I would say about 80% of my events are sponsored outside of the city fund. So it's doable. This is a conversation I know that we've been having, but I think I would encourage to figure out that right number for policies, so that we can say, hey, this is our policy. We won't spend more than 1 or 2% of our overall budget, and that's for events. I just wanted to have that happy medium, because believe it or not, the residents, the residents are very appreciative of a lot of the activities that we have for them. And that's all of the comments that I have to make. So if no one else has to make any comments, administration, is there anything else that you'd like to state?
Well, no, not really, but I would like to thank you all and the public for allowing us to do this presentation. I just want to say, in addition to the corporate sponsorship that we've discussed, we should emphasize on the fact that we did hire a full-time grant consultant, and we have been diligently working on prioritizing, all our needs throughout all our departments, and applying for all the grants, federal, state, local, as many as possible, to help us to provide the programs and the services that we know the community needs and wants and has been asking for. So that's one of the things that we've already done. Unfortunately, we can't give you a number right now, and hopefully by the time this budget is approved in October, November, we'll be able to give you a more positive update on the efficiencies and the savings that we're doing by function of and finally launching the ERP system, the technology that we need to do to be more efficient in the city, and also bringing additional grant funds to help us with the budget. So hopefully in the few months, we will be able to see the fruits of our labor.
No problem. I want to thank all of the department heads and the staff that are on the line. I want to thank all of the residents that participated in our fiscal year 2023-2024 budget workshop. Thank you again, our administration, and I believe that we are adjourned.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor, I just want to mention one more time, we are having 4 town hall meetings in August throughout the community to go walk over the budget. And the budget hearing is September 5th and September 19th at 6 o'clock.
Right, and at that time,
Thank you for reminding me.
the public will be able to have input, correct?
At the August town hall meetings and definitely at the budget hearings, September 5th and September 19th at 6 o'clock at City Hall.
Okay.
Rasha and Vice Mayor, I'm sorry, it's Scott.
Yes, Councilman Scott, go ahead.
Scott is right. Did you, do you have dates for those workshops, those public workshops yet?
No, we're working on your schedules because we want to make sure that you are back from, almost from your recess. And so we will make sure that we share them with you. My understanding is last year you had 2 in 1 week and 2 in the following week. So 4 of them will be done within 2 weeks. So we'll just pick the community in all districts.
Okay, and as far as I'm concerned, just have it when you need to have it. Don't wait on my availability. There's too many variables with me. So have it, and it'll be my job to be there. But I don't want you holding up until Scott has a free night, because like tonight, I lost an hour unexpectedly for work. So,
And it will be done virtually as well. It's in person, but we will have virtual access for everyone and the ability for people to provide comments.
Okay, if we have...
And to that, if I may add one layer, is that we need to make sure that we our residents are fully informed of those meetings, because most of the time, I have those meetings and then you see about 5, 7, 10, and we need to see if we can do some outreach and make sure that they're invited, because sometimes they complain that they don't get the information ahead of time.
Yes, sir. We are making every effort to be strategic in how we communicate with the public. And after this workshop, now the team will be working on setting the dates, the work plans, and so on, so we can share it with you all and the community at large. So yes, we plan on being strategic in how we announce these dates.
All right, I believe that is all. If I hear someone, but I think we can officially adjourn.
Thank you. Good night. Good evening.
Thank you, everyone.